Now, what's your role? Receive it. Accept it. Don't be Peter that says, oh, Lord, you're not going to wash my feet. You know why we say you're not going to wash my feet? Why would you possibly say you're not going to wash my feet? I think about those things. I wrestle with those thoughts. I go, what would cause people? Well, shame. I mean, there's one of us here that deserves to be washing the other one's feet. That's Peter's thought process. I mean, if anybody ought to be on their knees in the grime, slopping dirty, it's me, not you. You're Jesus. I've watched you walk on water and heal the sick and raise the dead, and I've never seen you fail. I've never even seen you had a moment of failure. And I'm me, and I lie, and I cheat, and I'm angry, and I'm temperamental, and when we get to the garden tonight, I'm going to cut a dude's ear off. I haven't done it yet, but I'm that kind of guy. I've been whetstoning the sword all day long so that I can kill something if it gets... I need to wash your feet. It's John the Baptist pulls that. Remember? Jesus walks into the Jordan and says, you got to baptize me. And John goes, no, you got to baptize me. And Jesus said, it doesn't work that way. Man never gets that. Jesus has to correct us all the time in the Gospels. He goes, it doesn't work that way. That's not how this kingdom works. You need to change your thinking about who you are in the kingdom and who I am in the kingdom. And if you do that, you'll change the way you think about your neighbor, because then they won't be your enemy. They'll be someone you have an opportunity to serve. Part of your conflict with them is because you've made them out to be an enemy instead of made them out to be someone you get to wash their feet. What if you approached that neighbor that you're struggling with as if they were an opportunity to serve a human on the earth? How might it change the way they talk to you and the way they treated you? So these are kingdom principles that Jesus is laying out for us so that we can understand what to do with them. And so the splashing of my feet is to receive the washing off of who I am in Christ so that He can do this great work in my life. And so my wrestling is, why does Peter reject the splashing? Is because I think Peter feels like he doesn't deserve to be cleaned off. He deserves to suffer in his mud. And I think that's what happens to some of us when we resist the message of grace. We don't think we deserve to be washed off. We think we deserve to suffer in our shame and suffer in our condemnation. Because by suffering, I know that I'm alive. I can feel pain, and it makes me humble, Pastor. It makes me humble to suffer in my pain. And no one should have to find humility by suffering in their pain. It's more noble to humble yourself in the sight of God than to be humbled by your guilt and your shame and your humility. And so humbling yourself is to say, you know what? I could use a good foot washing. And it goes against everything in my nature, but I'm going to lay my feet out in front of you. I've already been washed in the blood. Now I need to be washed off today. Honestly, church, that's all I've tried to do for a couple of days is wash you off. And I hope that when you walk back out into the world, you realize you'll need washed off again. That's the nature of walking back out into the world. But that you'll not go searching for what you can do to pay God back. You'll go searching for what He can do to wash you off. And I thank God for a place like this church. I'm confident in Pastor Kevin, and I'm confident in Brother Neil, whom I've known for several years, and had long conversations about grace and the love of God. I'm confident that this is a house that when you come in, people aren't looking for what's wrong with you. They're looking for a way to serve you by what is right with Jesus. And I'm happy for that. I don't see that everywhere. I really don't. I don't see those houses everywhere in America. I wish they were in every town. I'm here to tell you it's hard to find a place that doesn't look for what's wrong with you, but looks for what's right with Jesus so they can wash your feet. And instead of, ooh, look who just came in. This guy makes a lot of money. Ooh, look who just came in. She just cheated on her husband. God brought her to us so we can fix that. Instead of maybe God did bring her to you so that someone would love her and someone would receive her. And instead of Mr. Wealthy just walked in, now we're going to get to build that new gymnasium because we finally got some. Instead, maybe it'll be this guy might be looking for someone who could love him for more than his money. This guy might be looking for someone who would accept him for more than how much power he has at City Hall or how much pull he has with the police department or the zoning committee. Maybe this guy's tired of being taken advantage of. Maybe he walked into the last spot. Maybe he had a conversation with the Lord behind the wheel of his car when he turned his engine off and said, this is my last stop. This is the last chance I give you, God, to show me that you're real. Boy, don't you want him to walk into a room where someone splashes his feet off. And that's why the church needs to get back to splashing water on people's feet. Because you never know who walks through that door and what they desperately need, and they might be giving God one last chance. And that's what they told him on the way in, one last chance. Instead of being taken advantage of and ran over and knocked down and browbeat and condemned and made to feel guilty and made to feel like hell, they finally found someone who hugs them, puts a robe around their shoulders, a ring on their fingers, shoes on their feet, washes them off and says, we don't expect anything out of you. You don't have to sign a roll. You don't need to put a dime in the offering plate. Just be loved. Let the Father do his work in you. And folks, when you do that to people, there's no telling what happens in your midst. The kingdom explodes. See, the kingdom's bigger than we've given it credit for. When we put seed in the ground and we just put the soil over it and put it in the sun, water it and let it go and get our hands off of it, we haven't even yet seen in the earth. And we're just now starting to see the products of the kingdom being set free, being loosened over the last couple hundred years, because I believe liberty is a big part of the kingdom. And the world started getting thirsty for liberty a couple hundred years ago, to where they began to shake off the shackles of tyranny and oppression and monarchy. And then we start to see the kingdom expand in the earth. And so that's a wonderful thing.